Okay, everyone, welcome to my speaking lesson. This is for an online class. Um, and I'll just start with the objectives of the lesson. So this is the theme of the lesson is managing personal finance, and the lesson topic is self-reliance. And the objectives are to help people to learn skills in negotiation as they practice proficiency with the ACTFL can-dos, such as, and these are the objectives, offering a rationale to support their opinions, explaining causes and effect, expressing agreement and disagreement appropriately, comparing and contrasting information, and handling complications or unexpected changes. The content is to discuss strategies for budgeting, spending, and saving money for increasing self-reliance. And the learning strategies are pump priming for comprehension before the activity, and then also summarizing and paraphrasing afterwards. The key vocabulary is expenses, category, ledger, household bills, and living costs. And I'll be using an online resource about learning to manage your money from LDS.org. Okay, so the first activity, as I mentioned, is a pump priming activity meant to help people to really get into the what the lesson is going to be about. So as you can see right here, I've asked two questions. Learners will answer as they interact with one another in an online discussion board. And the first question is, what experiences have you had with personal budgets? And number two is, what is the best way to be able to save money for a rainy day, i.e. times of trouble? And the first student, I won't show you all of them, but you can see this first student says, in my case, I had many work experiences how to budgets. When I was 14 years old, I started the part-time job as a student. It was the first time I earned actual money in my pocket. However, did not know how to budget. Therefore, I bought unnecessary items. After then, I realized how to expense wisely. I found some ideas in my mind. First, I distinguished necessary things and unnecessary things. Second, deposit 10% of income because it can help when you have to use unexpected expense. Finally, I'm trying to thinking how to support myself, which is how to invest for me. For these ideas help to how to save money and budgets wisely. So I failed to mention, but as you can tell, this is about intermediate low to intermediate mid-level of students at a university. And you can see in here some language that is approaching advanced level at times, but consistent grammar mistakes to indicate that this student is solidly in intermediate mid-level. And then response to this student was, thank you for sharing your experience. I can learn a lot of things from you. I think it is a good idea to deposit 10% of income every time. It will be a big deal in the future. And then a third student, I kept an account book when I was working. Then I needed to pay my tuition, so I was trying to save my money. I wrote down my wages and expenses, and I made a budget how much I can use a month. It was really helpful for me. In fact, I could save my money and be able to spend money for only necessary things. As a result, I could keep enough money to pay my tuition by myself. However, I did not afford to use money when I got important needs suddenly. At that time, my family helped me. From this experience, I thought that I needed to save money for such a situation when I needed money for important purposes suddenly. It doesn't need much money, but constantly. When I have more money than usual, I tend to use money more than usual so I can save money instead of doing it. So again, you can see with this student, in this case, she seems to actually have a little bit better handle on the vocabulary and the grammar. But as you see as her paragraph progresses, that there starts to be a little bit of a breakdown in pragmatics and also different aspects of grammar, some spelling, and so on and so forth. But here I think it gives, we see two things happening here. Number one is the students are priming the pump. They're actually getting into the notion of what it is that the speaking activities are going to be centered on. And then number two, they're actually starting to narrate their experiences that they've had with, budgeting money, and then also talking about best ways to save money. And you see from their examples that, like any of us, they've had difficulties saving money, buying stuff that they realized wasn't as valuable as what they should have, and then learning useful ways to be able to save money. Okay, so that is the pump priming activity. And next I want to get into the actual heart of the lesson. So the meaningful activities that we've had. We've already talked about this interaction, which I actually used before instead of embedding it within the practice and application. And then we'll get into the strategies and the application, and then some of the feedback. This is the activity, okay? So there was an online kind of a pump priming activity, but then as we get into the lesson, I wanted to get them more into kind of a preview of what the actual speaking activity would be about. So I asked them 3 questions. In terms of personal finance, are you a saver or a spender? What are the advantages and disadvantages of budgeting your money? Do you have a budget that you live on? Why or why not? Now, I'm not going to show you every student's because that would take too much time, and we're already halfway through. But I'll just show you this, this student who's from Mongolia, great student. Many of my experiences showed me that I am more of a spender than a saver. Every time I get my salary, I want to be more budget and stricter with spending my salary. However, it doesn't work according to what I want because I like shopping and want to buy the things that I like. There are advantages and disadvantages of budgeting my money. When I start budget my money, there are many things that I can't do, such as watching movies in the movie theater and buying new things. On the other hand, there are many advantages of budgeting my money, such as I can save money in times of need, and I'm able to have own savings, which gives me so much more security. I do have a budget that I live on, which helps me to support myself, and I'm able to spend for the things I need. It's really important to have a budget because it's part of our happy and successful life. Okay, very good. Now, this course is actually based on entirely different things. So in order to introduce this topic, I had to introduce it as an extra credit opportunity. And so building this into Canvas, which is our learning management system, I asked them, did you participate in the extra credit assignment? And if they did, then they get a point for that. And then I asked them later, read this short article below, and then you'll see later I also asked them, did you read this short article, true or false? If they answer true, then they'll get a point for that as well. So I actually offered them 20 points to participate in this activity, but I didn't feel like I could make it mandatory because it's not a regular part of the curriculum. I'm sure all of you can understand. Okay, so here's the article. You're in an online personal finance course. You read this article about budgeting, spending, and saving money. And the reason I have this context is to really kind of help them what we called at Ohio State when I was there, remembering the future. You're creating memories of how they possibly could use language in the classroom or in this online scenario, so that at a later time, they'll have these memories of having used language that they can use for the future. So that's why it's called Remembering the Future. Okay, so now we can start talking about budgeting. Start with spending diary. Keep close track of everything you spend and everything you earn for a full month. Before you can realistically spend less than you're making, you have to have a clear view of what you're currently spending. And so it suggests create 7 categories: tithes and offerings, household bills, living costs, rent, mortgage, food, insurance and medical expenses, travel, car, public transport, fun, sports, entertainment, holidays, and the last one, savings. And then it has an example of a ledger that they might have. Now, just for time's sake, I'm just going to kind of continue on so we can actually get to some of the actual speaking lessons. And I'll feature 3 students. And there's different questions that I've asked, okay? So question number 1 is, based upon this article, what do you think is the best advice that you can apply in your personal life? Now, this question is directly assessing our first objective, which is to assess their ability to express and support their opinion. So let's listen in.
Aloha, I'm Dava. So according to the article, I liked some of the things that mentioned in the article. Specifically, I liked the point that saying it's not wise to spend more money than we earn. I agree with this idea because I know that if you spend more money than you earn, you would be in trouble. You need to loan money from someone or some other companies, and also you need to pay it back to them, which costs a lot of money. And also, if we are not, be wise using our monies, and there's no way to save our money for our future life or the times of we need. And another.
Okay, so I'll stop her right there. So you can see here that she actually did a good job of the objective, which was to express her opinion and then also to use supporting details. So in that regard, I would give her a high marks because she did achieve the objective. Now, there were grammar mistakes and vocabulary mistakes when she was doing that, which are fine because they're trying to learn. So I'd give her feedback. For instance, she's struggling with articles, a, and, the, and that's probably the most common one that she struggled with in this particular video. So I would give her feedback saying that, work on these articles, but other than that, you did really, really well with achieving this objective, okay? I'm gonna go to another student, and you'll see, this is for question 2. Suppose that you want to start using a spending diary, but your family does not want to. Explain some of the positive effects of using a spending diary in your own words, okay? So this is assessing cause and effect. So what effects would you see from using a spending diary? So let's listen in.
I think there are many positive effects of using a spending diary. First of all, I think when you write it down or when you buy something else, and exactly they tell you how much amount of money you used. Also, the other idea is that you can distinguish that how much price is that the previous time and now on the future. So you can estimate is how much did I use for this month. Also, you can see that it's like after 1 year, how much changes your balance of your money. So I think using a spending diary is a very good idea for me.
Okay, very good. So again, in this case, this student achieved the objective because he indicated the effects, which are you can see how much money you've saved after the end of the year, and you can track your expenditures by using a spending diary. So he achieved that objective. There were some grammar, again, articles were an issue with the student, as they are with a lot of students who are Korean due to lack of articles in their language. They have particles instead. But overall, pretty good. So for time's sake, I won't be able to show you the rest, but I'll just show you some of the questions. And I'll show you from this third student's perspective. And you see, despite it saying at the top, record yourself speaking in answer to this question. And the question is, suppose that you want to start using a spending diary, but your family does not want to. Explain some of the positive effects of using a spending diary in your own. Oh, sorry, we already did that one. Anyway, it says, record yourself speaking in answer to this question. Suppose that after budgeting for household bills and living expenses and savings, you have little money left for quote-unquote fun. A family member wants to use that money for a family trip. Do you agree or disagree with this use of money? Now this is assessing the objective to express agreement or disagreement. And the student failed to, to recognize that this is a speaking activity and wrote her agreement with this. You can see her answer. So I wanted to bring that up, just that this is one thing that was that this student failed to do, but did answer the question. Question number 7 is, or scenario number 7 is, you need money to pay for school tuition. What are the advantages and disadvantages of working through school to pay for tuition versus getting a student loan to pay versus tuition? And this is assessing the objective of making comparisons and contrasts. And so her response is an answer to that particular can do. Then finally, your bills were more expensive this month. You paid all of your bills, but you don't have any money left for savings. Then you break your leg and now you need to pay the hospital bill. How can you pay for medical expenses? And this is the last objective, which deals with negotiation, is how do you deal with unanticipated events with language? And so this is her free-forming with language to show how she would deal with this unanticipated event. And we're out of time, but just really quickly, the last part of this was a restructuring strategy. So I wanted them actually to use writing prompts as a way of, again, solidifying the information, but also as another way to use language authentically. And the first one was to summarize. So I asked the learners to summarize the article in their own words, in about 30 to 50 words. She wrote probably a little bit more than that, but that's fine. And then finally, I asked the learners to paraphrase this thought in their own words. Then comes the hard part. You have to make sure you are spending less than you are earning. So carefully go through each item on the left and see what you can do without, even though it might be painful. The item on the left refers to the ledger. And you can see her response. It means that this part is so difficult for us to stop doing or trying to limit of spending the money at all times. Also, we should spend less money when buying things and paying more than what we are earning. So we should go through the items that will help us know what to do, even though it is hard to do. So she paraphrases this with a certain degree of success, not necessarily an exact one-to-one comparison of this, or a paraphrasing of this, but still with some success. Again, some grammar, some pragmatic issues, but anyway, that is the extent of the lesson. And so I welcome any questions that you have, and I appreciate you taking the time to view this. Thank you.